Okay, on the latest episode of the PCT podcast, we are joined by a Stoke City legend with close to 500 professional appearances in league football. With no further ado, good evening, Carl Dickinson. How are you today, my friend?
Hi, mate. Yeah, all good, thanks.
Fantastic. Before we speak about your sort of career today, Carl, can you just tell us a little bit about where you're playing at the minute and how lockdown has had an impact on you as a professional footballer?
So I'm currently playing for Yeovil Town in the National League. We haven't got off to a great start, I'll be honest, in the league up to yet. But I'm positive with the set of lads we've got and staff that results will start kicking in again soon. But in terms of lockdown, hasn't really affected us much. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely not the same without fans there. It's definitely not. It's you miss that buzz even when you come out to warm up and there's a bit of a noise there. But when you're coming out of that tunnel ready for kickoff, it's definitely not the same. You kind of get your energy and your fuel off a bit of noise coming out, and even if it's away from home and you've got people battering you, I quite enjoy that. So it's definitely not the same, but it's something that everybody's had to adapt to. So, but yeah, I mean, hopefully it doesn't last too much longer.
Fingers crossed. Obviously, we're chatting now halfway through lockdown 2.0, and obviously those that will be aware, you're sort of from around the Stoke area, the Midlands, but signed to Yeovil. How's the travelling working for you at the minute? Is that having an effect on how you train and play, or is that something you've managed to nail down?
Well, I mean, it's a weird one actually, because I'm not actually allowed to drive at the minute. I had before the play, about 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the playoffs at the end of last season, I had a seizure.
Okay.
The first one ever, completely out of the blue. So I've had all my tests, everything's fine. But the doctor's not allowed me to drive for 6 months. So that's been a difficult one. But I've been very lucky with the set of lads I've got around me at Yeovil. There's some great lads that, don't live too far from Stoke. So I've been getting the train from Stoke to Birmingham, and they've been helping me out massively. So, I mean, it is difficult. I mean, a few extra days where I've been away from the family. But like I say, you have to adapt with what's put in front of you and crack on and get on with things.
I mean, it's great to hear, as you say, that you're of good health now, and after the season that you've had. I just want to go into your sort of career to date. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the podcast is for aspiring footballers, coaches, managers to have a listen to and see what the journey's like for different people. And before you were signed to Derby County's academy, Carl, how was it that you got into football? Were you playing local grassroots and scouted?
Yeah, I was actually playing for my dad's team, for a team called New All Boys. It's just outside Burton-on-Trent, Swaddling Coat.
Okay.
So that's where I lived most of my life as a kid. But I was actually playing for my dad's team, and it was weird actually. The scout wasn't actually meant to be watching our game. It was half time on another game, so he thought he'd come over and just see what was going on. And that's literally how I got picked up.
So were you aware of any interest at all from professional clubs and scouts whilst playing?
No, none at all. I literally, after the game, my dad said, scouts just spoke to me, you're going to go and train at Derby next week. And that was it. I literally went from there, got signed, and I was there, I think, 4 years, I think.
So how did that feel then? Obviously going from grassroots and maybe playing with your friends and obviously in your dad's team, as you mentioned there, to a pro club. Was there a big difference in the standard at all?
I mean, for me, I was excited, and I wanted. For me, it was a kind of I want to go and test myself against better lads and see what about myself. So it was actually a trial match. I actually went on first, and managed to do really well at that. And then I was signed, I think, a week or 2 weeks later for them. Okay. So for me, it was just a case of testing myself and going and enjoying it and doing what got me to that point in the first place, and just carrying on.
Fantastic. I mean, I say shortly after, you spent 4 years at Derby, as you mentioned then. You joined Stoke City's academy in 2002. How did that come around? Was there a decision to be made of who you wanted to go and play for, or was it, again, just interest and you were...
No, so basically what happened, when I got to about 14, they were deciding on giving extent contracts out again for the next year.
Yeah.
And I got offered one, but the academy director at the time, a guy called John Peacock, who I think is still involved with the FA, I think, he told me I'd never be a footballer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But if it hadn't have been for one of the coaches who was a part-time coach at the time, but an ex-England international, David Nish, he played for Leicester in England, I wouldn't have been offered a new deal. So I signed it, and then about 2 weeks later, they'd already given scholarships out to the likes of Lee Holmes, Tom Huddleston. They were in my age group. So I honestly just thought, there's no way I'm going to be getting any further here. So luckily, where I lived, there was a Stoke City scout, Les Holland, his name, God rest him. But yeah, he was just like, yeah, I'll take you over to Stoke, no problem. Because two of my mates who'd already been released were at Stoke as well. Okay. So yeah, I went there. 2 weeks later, I was signed by Stoke. And one of my first games was actually against Derby, and I managed to score.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, from that day forward, I was really lucky with the managers I got. So Andy, who I believe had he has been with the women's teams now. I think I might be wrong at Stoke. He was my first coach there. Brilliant with me, and then I was lucky enough to, be moved up and have Noel Blake, the legend. He was fantastic for me. He's one of the best coaches I've seen.
Oh, high praise. I mean, one thing I've just sort of picked up on there, at 14 years old, being told by your academy manager at the time that you're never going to be a footballer. What did that do to you personally? Was it a real confidence knocker, or was that right? Do you know what? I'm going to go and prove you wrong.
Well, obviously, I was upset when I got back to the car, in tears and stuff, and that was when it was my dad who he basically grabbed me and was like, "Listen, you can either feel sorry for yourself, or you can go and prove everyone wrong and show people what you're about." And that's literally from that day forward. That was me. That's how I've always kind of tried to be, and always tried to not listen to. It's a weird one, really. Not listen to everyone's opinions, but if someone does usually say something bad, I'll right, I'll show you then. That's the mentality I've always kind of had from that day forward.
Well, it certainly worked, and which we'll get onto in the rest of the conversation in terms of a successful career. You then made your senior debut, obviously fast forward a little bit, against Coventry in a 1-0 win and replaced Carl Dickinson. Just tell us a little bit about how you felt with the debut coming up, the call to the first team, and any feelings you had prior to stepping foot on the pitch.
To be honest, it's a little bit blurry actually, but it's I don't really remember much in the build up to the game. I just remember on the Friday, the gaffer, Pulis, saying, "You're going to be with us tomorrow. You're going to be on the bench." In fact, no, he didn't. He didn't even tell me until the day I got there. And yeah, I just remember walking in and my shirt being up and being the hardest smile to take away from my face. It was, but to be able to get on, it was actually Clive Clark that managed to get me on. I'll never forget this to the day I die. He was actually said to me, I was warming up still. He was like, "Are you ready?" And I went, "For what?" and it was actually him. He was the reason why I managed to get my debut.
Right. Okay.
Because he come off injured.
Right. So it's not Carl Dickinson. Okay. So he came off injured, and that's where the debut takes place. Was there any nerves as you stepped foot on the pitch, or was it blinkers and right down to business?
No, because literally the gaffer. I keep saying, I always call him the gaffer. Tony Peerless. He literally just patted me on the back, saying, "Enjoy yourself." I think there was only about 4 or 5 minutes left anyway. But I mean, for him to have that trust in me, to be able to go on at that age, is like I say, I'll never forget that, because that man gave me a chance. That's something that you don't forget.
We'll come on to the gaffer shortly, but it was then a further 18 months before sort of first team football came about again. How did that feel, having the taste, albeit for 4 or 5 minutes, and then to go so long without involvement again?
It was hard, but I was always being told the reason for it. It wasn't as if like the gaffer wasn't saying anything to me. It was always like, keep training with us, maybe take you out for a bit. You go back with the U team or the reserves for a little bit, but keep going, because the chance will come. Don't get me wrong, it obviously took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I always knew that if I kept working my backside off, training right, and doing the right things, that my chance would come, and luckily it did.
Do you think, looking back, maybe in hindsight, it was possibly a calculated move just to get you involved and give you the taste, and then, give you that carrot for you to go out and say, I want more of that?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I took away from it. Like I say, for me, it was right. You've had a taste, and it's one of them. So you've had a taste, you've enjoyed it. Why would you not want to keep having that feeling? So for me, it was anytime I got a chance to train with the first team, it was the minimum thing was I ran around, because if I didn't, they'd let me know about it. And if I didn't do things right, they'd let me know about it. And because I think I did do that, whenever I did train with the first team, they always looked after me. I think it's because the way I trained, the way I did things right, they knew I wasn't coming up to the first team and kind of not getting involved or not doing things properly. They knew that I was a young lad coming in because I deserved it, and I was going to do things properly. And I think when you do see that, especially with younger lads now, it can be a bit the other way. So don't get me wrong, not all the time, but I must admit, it has got worse, that side of things, the older I've got and seen it.
Yeah, I mean, we move on to sort of your career then, and Tony Pulis is left at this point. In comes the enigmatic Johan Boskamp. What was it like to play under him during your time and the Icelandic ownership? And for those that might not be aware, obviously being a Stoke fan myself, that it was a up and down time for the club during their ownership.
I think we either won 4-1 or got beat 4-1, wasn't it? But to be honest, he was actually really good with me, and a lot of the other younger lads. He gave a lot of us playing time, especially towards the end of the season. So I mean, I had a good relationship with him. He'd like I say, he'd always try and help the younger lads develop technically. But yeah, obviously there was a lot of stuff going on the outside that a lot of people didn't see. I don't even think we saw any of it. And then it ultimately led to him leaving.
I mean, during his spell, you did go out on loan to Vikingur in Iceland. How old were you at that point, Colin? And were there any reservations about sort of playing your trade away from home?
I think I'd have been about 18. I think I'd fractured my leg. Actually, the first day of pre-season when he joined.
Oh wow!
There was no one near me. I went to turn to sprint off, and yeah, my leg just decided to snap in two places.
Oh wow!
So yeah, but because I didn't end up playing loads, they wanted me to carry on playing for the summer to keep up game time. I just agreed to it. I thought, you know, if that's what the management want me to do, I'll get on with it. But I must admit, I didn't really enjoy it. I'll be honest.
No.
It wasn't. I don't know. I think I tried my hardest to get used to things and do things, but I just really wasn't enjoying it. And I think when you get to that point and you're so far away from home at that age, it can be difficult. So after about 3 weeks, I think I called up saying, like, you know, I'm finding this really hard. If it's okay, can I come back? And that was it.
I mean, for any young players listening and maybe not getting game time and the chance to play abroad does come up, would you encourage, you know, the younger lads to go and experience it?
I would do my homework on it. I'll be perfectly honest. I knew nothing about any of it, so I completely went in blindly. So I mean, you do see it a lot, especially with like the top clubs like Chelsea. A lot of their lads going out to Dutch clubs and places like that. I think if you've got that connection where it's been happening for a while, then yes, I would. But if it's something that no one's done and you don't really know much about it, then I'd probably, you know, hold fire.
So not long after that, then a loan deal to Blackpool came about under Simon Grayson. Were there any frustrations about sort of getting game time? As we mentioned previously, you've had that little taster. Possibly were you thinking about options away from Stoke long term?
No, not at all. Not at all. I just wanted to go and play football. Mm-hmm. That was it. I mean, it wasn't happening at Stoke, so if for me to go and play some competitive football was massive, and I loved it at Blackpool. Absolutely loved it. It was brilliant for me, playing week in, week out at a good level, with some really good players. You know, we had a lad, Wesley Houlihan there. He's a little Irish magician. He's brilliant. And quite a few of them boys ended up playing at even higher levels. But I really enjoyed it. Simon Grayson was brilliant with me. I wish I could have stayed a bit longer, but I got called back, and then yeah, it's one. But I think at that age, I know there is a lot of lads that probably are a little bit like, oh, I don't really want to go on loan, but I couldn't recommend it enough. I really couldn't recommend it enough. I loved it.
How vital was that experience of gaining match time and match sharpness and experience at those, and I don't mean to sound disrespectful here, but at lower levels to the club you were signed at, to just get that experience under your belt?
I think it was something I needed, because I was only training with the first team, and it's not the same as a game as playing at you know, you can play in reserve games, and to be honest, the reserve leagues were decent because anyone that wasn't playing on a Saturday, you knew they were going to be playing on a reserve game. But yeah, I think I needed that to be playing week in, week out at a good level, especially with, you know, there were not necessarily men, but there was quite a few men there, and probably just to get beaten up a little bit, if you know what I mean. Like, the physical side of everything toughened me up. So when I did come back, I knew exactly what I was heading into, and I'd had a bit more experience with it, and I could then come back and really kick on again.
Well, something that happened tenfold in the 2007-8 season. Tony Pulis, the gaffer's back. Carl, just how special was that season in the team that you were involved in?
You know, I've been asked this question, and I can't explain it. I've never been involved in anything like that, or since. It's just a special group, special group. We did everything together, everything. You knew when match day come, you could look into your mate's eye and go, yeah, he's with me, he's got my back, he's got my back. We all knew each other's jobs because it was drilled into us day in, day out, week in, week out. And yeah, it was just I think that was the speciality of the gaffer. He did his homework on players, not just what they were like as players, but what they were like as people as well. And yeah, that group is something that I'll never forget, because it was a special group. We had an amazing season, and to be a part of that, a lad at my age at the time, 2021, was amazing.
So for those that might not be aware and aren't Stoke fans, or probably lived under a rock, that season ended in promotion. How special was that? Because it went right to the last game of the season, and I think the majority of Stoke fans will remember your rendition of Delilah. How special was that promotion with that group, and to do it on the last day of the season?
Yeah, like I said, it's something that I'll never forget. I'd had a bit of a bad news during that year. I lost my dad in the October, and I cannot thank the gaffer, the staff, all the lads for the way they were with me. So for me to get to the end of that season and achieve what we achieved, it is, like I say, I think that's why it's something I'll never forget, because I'd had that horrific thing happen to me, and to be able to come through that and achieve what I'd always set out to achieve as a young lad, to be able to say, you know, I'm part of a team in the Premier League. Like I say, it was a massive achievement for me, and that's why it lives so long in the memory.
And goosebumps through me that as Carl. And you know, I think that what people don't see in any sort of sport is that when there's something such as traumatic as you've been through there, to come through that, there is good times ahead. And certainly that promotion, and I think we saw the joy on your face throughout that and many other celebrations after
I milked it a little bit, didn't I?
Right. Well, I don't blame you. I always remember the conga that went from Hanley down to Burslem, and yeah, it's a special time to be a Stoke fan. One thing I'm intrigued in as a coach is, what was it like to play under Tony Pulis? Anyone outside of Stoke-on-Trent will maybe have a negative opinion on his style of play and etc. But it worked, did it not? He got the best out of players consistently.
You literally just said it then. You've literally just said it. Yeah, it's not even. He got the best out of people because of how he made you feel.
Wow.
And he made you feel like you could go and beat anyone on any day. And because of his management style, like people, you know, other people tell you, don't get me wrong, sometimes training could be boring. You could be standing around for a while, doing set plays, working on things. But I've never gone into a game feeling as organised as I have under him.
Wow.
And I think quite a few people who played in that group would probably tell you the same. His attention to detail was second to none. And like I said, we all knew our own jobs, but we also knew each other's jobs. So if someone did switch off, someone would be like, done, hey, you back in here. And that was it. I think that's why we we had the success we did, because the amount of times I think we won 1-0 that year was frightening, and that was down to set plays a lot of the time. And maybe we hadn't played so well, but if you can go away from home on a Tuesday night, not play well, and nick a 1-0 win from a set play, no one remembers how you played.
No.
So, and that was the beauty of it.
I mean, we've had former teammates Danny Pugh and Roy Delap on the podcast, and they were both very full of praise for Tony and the job that he did there, and the way that the group was. Something that I'm intrigued in is, did that changing room manage itself, or was it a case of the gaffer and then managed?
No, I think it did just manage itself, because of the type of people that were in there. Don't get me wrong, we had so much fun together, but when it was training, when it was games, it was right, bang on it. And if anyone wasn't, you were either getting booted or someone was in your face letting you know about it. And that was the beauty of the standards, was so high day in, day out, that when it did come to game time, you know that you'd worked on it all week, and the games sometimes were easier than training. So
that's an interesting one, that the games are sometimes easier. Let's talk about that opening game of the season. Premier League player, age of 21, a 3-1 defeat to Bolton, and the team was pretty much wrote off and destined for relegation by media and pundits alike. Did that negativity from the outside of the club bring everyone within the club closer together?
Massively. I remember that game, because I come on as a sub. I think I actually set up our goal. So Ricardo's goal, but after that game, when you see the news and Paddy Power was paid out and Stoke to go down, and I think, like, you go back to when I was 14, the same kind of thing. I'll show you. And that came in out of all of us, and it was like, people can say whatever they want, but we know what we've got. We know what we're about. We know that we're going to upset a lot of people this year, and that was it. That's exactly what happened.
I suppose your team talks are almost there for every game, determined to prove somebody wrong on the first game.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, I mean, the way that the crowd was that first year. Yeah. I mean, when we come out for the first home game against Villa, that sent shivers down my spine walking down that tunnel that day. That was something special. The noise, you couldn't, like, when people say you can't hear yourself on the pitch, that day, that was tough to even shout over to people. But yeah, that day, I mean, you've got Ricardo's goal, Mama's last 93rd minute back goal. that goal. If one of the big boys scores that goal that Rick scores, that's been shown God knows how many times. It's the best goal I've seen in a game I played in.
Well, I'm just thinking back of it as a fan, and you know, the build up to Rory's throws and just that anticipation. How important were the fans that first season, and obviously as the seasons went on?
It was mad. It was mad how good they were, and I think that all stemmed from the first game, because the beauty of what the gaffer did was almost kind of brought, not that the fans and players weren't together, but it just seemed to go up another level, as if to, like, say, right, everyone's against us. Whenever anyone comes to this stadium, we're all letting them know what we're about. And you could see it as soon as Rory getting throws, the whole crowd, I mean, you were just waiting for something to happen. Every time it happened, you just thought, right, we're either going to get another chance or we're going to score. That was literally how it felt. And the way teams defended, you could see they were petrified. I mean, I think it was. I mean, I wasn't involved in the game, but the whole game when Boaz Miles kicked it out for a corner instead of a throw-in. That's the panic it causes. That's the panic it causes. I mean, and because of the size of some of the lads we had, why not use it to your advantage?
That's it completely. And who would you say that first season in the Premier League? Who was your biggest test personally as an opponent?
Well, I mean, I only made 5 appearances but I'd say the toughest one I played against that season, possibly Walcott.
Yeah,
just because of speed, not necessarily amazingly skillful dribbler or anything like that. Just speed. It kills. That's the saying, isn't it?
Yeah. No
I mean, to be fair, to be fair, he got subbed at half time in the game we played, but they were already 3-0 up by then, so it was one of them. But it was the last game of the season. Actually, I hadn't played in 3 months because we'd stayed up. The gaffer was just like, "Go and have some fun." I was like, "Oh, brilliant! I'm marking Walcott after 3 months of not playing." So, but I mean, for me to even make one appearance in the Premier League is something I dreamed as a kid. Yeah. To be able to say I've done that, I feel very lucky. To be able to have ticked that one off is a massive achievement for me.
Oh, superb. And hopefully for anybody listening who wants a career in the game, there's no better motivation to do that. We're just going to fast forward a little bit into terms of 2009. There was loan spells to Leeds under Grayson again. Was that a bit of a pull, knowing that a gaffer you previously worked under wanted you to come and play again?
Yeah, because I'd had a couple of offers to play in the Championship, and hindsight, yeah, probably I should have took them, but because I was a bit frustrated of not playing and not getting game time, I thought, well, why not go to a manager I know what he's about. A massive club is in Leeds United as well. It was almost done in a day. I literally went, yeah, let's do it, and that was it. I was on my way in my car on my way out to Leeds.
Fantastic. Easy decisions, as you say there, that the little bit of homework would help you settle in a little bit quicker. Sorry.
No, go on, mate. Sorry.
Oh, good. I was going to say, the question I've got in here, and as I say, amongst the Stoke fans, you'll not be known for your goal scoring feats, but for Portsmouth, you scored the winner in a 1-0 win against Cardiff. As a left back,
no, Barnsley. That
was it. Barnsley. Apologies. How did it feel then getting your first league goal after waiting so long?
I think I blacked out when I was celebrating, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, when I stepped up for the free kick, I thought I could hear Mark Robbins shouting people to get me off it, but I don't think anyone was getting me off it at that point. But yeah, to score it in like the last 2 minutes of the game and win the game. It meant a hell of a lot. I had all my family there as well, so yeah, to be able to do that in front of them and celebrate in the corner where they were, that is something you don't forget.
We then move on to Watford and where Sean Dyche, he signed you on a 3-year deal. Another manager that quite possibly is easily labelled as one-dimensional. Does Sean draw comparisons to Tony Pulis, and how good are they to play for?
I think there are quite a lot of similarities between them. Possibly not in terms of how long Pulis would spend on set plays, etc. Dyche was literally more this is what I'm doing, this is what you're doing, bang, 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 do it. But there was always a process and a DNA to what he wanted from his teams. But I loved it under him. He was brilliant with me. Really did. He was almost kind of a perfect mix between, let's call it old school and current.
Yeah.
He in terms of like coaching, he used to do a thing called a debrief on a Monday. So we'd always have like clips of the weekend, and I found them really helpful for everyone. I just really enjoyed it. We had a good group. I think we ended up finishing 9th that first year. But yeah, really enjoyed it with him. And then obviously he ended up getting the sack, and you know the current owners took over and appointed Mr. Zola.
Yeah, that leads me sort of quite nicely onto the next sort of question. You mutually terminated your contract under Zola. Was that a decision for you to come and get football or get game time?
Yeah, I mean, the second year I barely played at all. Basically got told I wasn't going to play ever. And that was it. I mean, a few things happened, and yeah, we were able to come to an agreement of me cancelling the contract. And at that point, I'd spent quite a few seasons away from home, away from my wife and my little boy at the time. He was only young, and I just wanted to be closer to home and to find somewhere I could go and enjoy my football again and have a new lease of life. And after talking with Mickey Adams, and we went through everything, we had a really good talk about everything. I think sometimes you just get a feeling that at this moment in your career, this is probably the right time to take this option and, like I said, and enjoy my football again. And that's exactly what happened. For 3 years, I did really enjoy my football.
Again, for those that aren't aware, you signed obviously for Mickey Adams for local rivals Port Vale. How did that feel, having so much success with Stoke, and then later on in your career almost coming full circle and joining local rivals?
I'll be honest, it was the first question Mickey Adams asked me.
Right.
He actually said, "Can you deal with it?" And I said, "Well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there?" And he just went, "Fair enough, that'll do for me." And I mean, I knew there might have been a few things, but I can't speak highly enough of both sets of supporters. They were absolutely fantastic with me. I had nothing but, when obviously it got announced that I was signing, I had nothing but, you know, like messages, people sending me messages on Twitter, etc. Congratulations, hope everything works out. Even Port Vale fans, welcome to the club. And in my head, it was more, I mean, it's quite general, the thing I'm about to say, for all fans, but I had in my head, if I just go and prove that I'm not just here just because it's close to home or whatever, I need to prove that I'm here because I want to play. I want to show people that I'm a good footballer, and I'm not just here just to make a number up and be close to home. I wanted to prove, and I think especially around the whole Stoke area, I think if fans can see that you're willing to wear your heart on your sleeve and give everything every match day, and you come off that pitch knowing that you've given everything, I think both sets of fans can accept that.
Well, that certainly was epitomised the following season when you were named captain at Port Vale. So something that I found when I was doing a little bit of research prior to the chat was that you came out to the press a couple of months after being named captain and saying that the standards that you set weren't good enough for your standard. How hard are you on yourself, Carl, as a player in terms of standards, and what caused maybe that slip?
Just putting too much pressure on myself. just trying to do everybody else's job and instead of just concentrating on my own job. There was a lot of things that I was trying to control that I wasn't in control of, that shouldn't have been in my control. Do you know what I mean? And it was a talk with Rob Page, the assistant at the time, who's now with Wales. He actually said, you're worrying too much about everything. He said, just do your job. He said, you've done it for the last year. That's why you've been named captain. He said, so just do your job. And then from that moment forward, the performances pick up and you kick on from there.
So for any players listening in now, is that a bit of advice that you would maybe give out? Don't put yourself under too much pressure.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that you can control. You can control the attitude. You can control your preparation, your mentality. Things you can't control are what other players are going to do, what the referee is going to do, the weather, etc. And that's what I had to learn quickly. And don't get me wrong, there's still times when I get a little bit over the top. But in terms of accepting what can happen, as long as I know I've done everything I can to help my team, then I can't control what else goes on beyond that.
And again, I think for any players listening, we do. I'm not a player by any stretch of the imagination, but we put a lot of pressure on them as coaches to maybe go and succeed, and that can affect other elements of the game. So I think they're just an open chat that you had, as you mentioned, with Rob. It's something that maybe needs to be done more often.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a sort of like the pride thing comes into it, isn't there? But for me, it was more in terms of trying to kick on again. I need to have this tough conversation. I need to, because otherwise I'm just going to keep almost trying too hard to put it right and things getting worse. And then all of a sudden you find yourself out of the team, etc. So for me, it was just a case of, what's your opinion on everything? Can you help me, basically? I think sometimes you do need that. You do need a little period of reflection, or somebody telling you, listen, this is what I think, and you taking advice from that and trying to take it forward.
I'm very conscious, obviously, that we've spent a lot of the evening talking about your career today, and it brings us sort of full circle to where you are now. Is there any plans to get into coaching at all, Carl, or are you happy still playing?
When I was at Notts County, actually, I did a bit of part-time coaching at Derby County with the academy there with the 14s. I did enjoy it, but I think maybe it's because I was at a certain age group. I mean, I'm all for the development and seeing people develop, but for me, I kind of needed that buzz of you train all week to have that feeling of winning 3 points on a Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think with coaching, you kind of, especially if you're at certain levels, it completely does take over your life. And I don't know. I didn't really get that excitement from it. For me, the thing I get excited about is the agency side of it. I love the fact that I can go and watch games, I can go and spot talent, and I can make sure that they have the best careers possible that they can have. And that, for me, I don't know, I get excited by that. I get excited by, being able to look after a lad's career and not let him have to worry about anything outside football. He can just concentrate on the football side and know that I'm trying to take care of everything outside of it.
it's what you alluded to earlier about the pressure. I think just from the outside looking in, maybe that experience that you've had and putting pressure on yourself, being able to take that away from the player for them to flourish, it is what gives you your excitement.
Yeah, I mean, like the first year at Port Vale, I'd lost my mum as well that year, so maybe I was, I don't know, maybe it was a knock-on effect from that. I don't know, but like I don't know. I just get excited by being able to help a player have the best career, because this is giving me some of the best days I've ever known. And sometimes I hear parents say, "Oh, I don't know if I'd want my kid to be a professional footballer." I'm like, well, why? Why? It is the best thing ever. It is the best thing ever. It is. I love it. I love it still every day. Going in every day, training, playing games, the journeys, the banter in the dressing rooms. I love it. I still love it, and I will keep loving it until that moment does come when I decide it is enough. But I'm just going to keep enjoying myself, working hard, enjoying myself, and and banging out as many games as I can. I want to get over that 500 mark. That's the target of mine. I want to get over that 500 mark.
So are we close to that mark at the minute?
I think I'm very close, yeah. I'm not fully sure how many I've got left, but I want to get it done this season, definitely.
Well, fingers crossed that comes off for you, Carl. Before we sort of head into our quick fire question round, a couple of questions to finish off. Obviously, you've come through what would be the academy system now. Your lad is now in the system. Is there any differences from when you came through to how or what he's experiencing now?
Yeah, the facilities are a hell of a lot better. The training ground at Stoke's amazing now. Yeah. I'd honestly say there's a lot more technical players. Definitely, I think that's something that's come more and more into the English academies. The technical side, I'd definitely say that's improved a hell of a lot since I was a kid. I mean, I wish I'd be as technical as some of these lads at their age. Yeah. So, but no, I mean, I think with everything that the standards get higher, the facilities get higher. I do think there possibly is a bit more pressure from people, from parents probably. But no, I mean, as long as my lad's enjoying himself and having fun and working hard, and the coaches are happy with everything, then I'm happy. And I just want him to go and play football with a smile on his face, because he's happy playing football and he's scoring goals, and obviously it puts a big smile on my face. So as long as that's happening, I'm a happy man.
Well, who knows? We might have another a mini Dicko singing Delilah in years to come.
Yeah, that'd pull on the heartstrings if I got to see him run out there and score a goal.
Superb. That's fingers crossed, and obviously we wish him the best in that. The last question before we go into our quick fire is what advice would you give to any players listening on how to deal with the demands of the game physically and mentally?
Train. When you think you've done enough, train more. There's times when I think back and probably have, I say regrets, but more could I have work on everything. And I mean literally everything. I don't just mean football wise. I mean in the gym, your health, what you eat, what you drink, especially for lads coming through, because the game is getting quicker and quicker. And if you can be physically up there and also be working on the technical side and your you gain knowledge as well. I think that can put you at a very good level anyway. So for me, it's just enjoy it, enjoy work and work hard. The biggest thing is to work hard, and when you think you have worked hard, work even more.
Do more. No, yeah. Fantastic advice. It's been great from a career perspective to listen to you speak today, Carl. And as a Stoke fan myself, it's a little bit of a fanboy moment. But before I let you go, we do like to finish off with a quick fire question round and put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh God, here we go.
Best manager or coach played under?
Tony Pulis.
Best friend in football?
Andy Wilkinson.
Toughest opponent?
Oh, are we saying toughest as in the one that caused me the most problems, or do you mean toughest as in hardest?
The one that caused you the most problems, the one where you, I would say, couldn't wait for the game to finish.
I would probably say when I was on loan at Portsmouth, he was actually a teammate of mine when I was at Leeds, Snodgrass.
Okay. All right. Okay.
He tore me apart one game when I was on loan at Pompey. I probably got him his move to Norwich at that time. But I must admit that day he was frightening. He was really good.
What's the best trainer?
Oh, God, wow. Oh my God, I've been at that many bloody clubs. Trying to think now. God, you have put me on the spot with this one. Glenn Whelan.
Okay. Best player played with?
Ricardo Fuller.
Best moment in football to date?
Promotion day.
Biggest wow moment?
Probably my debut.
Okay. Biggest role model or influence in football?
My hero was Stuart Pearce, but I think in terms of who had an effect on my career, I would probably say either Tony Pearce or Noel Blake.
This is the one that's probably been the most difficult for our guest. Is describe
I've got
yourself.
a feeling what you're going to say.
In 3 words.
Hardworking. Can that count as one?
Yep, we'll count that as one.
Hardworking. I'd probably say honest and caring.
Yeah. Final question. Is there anybody you would recommend or like to hear on the podcast?
Liam Lawrence. Or Wilco. Okay. Let's go Wilco.
Let's go Wilco. I may hit you up offline or off air to see if we can arrange that. I have messaged Lenny. He is getting back to me when it quietens down a bit. But no, that's the end. That's the end of the quick fire question. Carl, look, for me again, I want to say thank you for your time tonight. I know you're a busy man and you've got a family, so thank you for taking the time away to speak to us today at PCT Coaching. I want to wish you and the family well. Stay safe and wish you all the success moving forward.
Thank you, mate. Thanks a lot for your time. Brilliant what you're doing.
What's up, man? Thank you, mate, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Hello, we're Towel Central UK, local towel stockist here on Trentham Trade Park, Stanley Matthews Way. Our opening hours are 8 till 5 in the week and Saturdays till 12.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy the content that we're trying to bring to you. Don't forget, new episodes will be released every Monday. You can find us on the iTunes Store, Spotify, and if you want to see the video, you can see it on our YouTube channel, PCT Football Coaching.